You're about to listen to a BBC podcast, and trust me, you'll get there in a moment. But if you're a comedy fan, I'd really like to tell you a bit about what we do. I'm Julia Mackenzie, and I commission comedy podcasts at the BBC. It's a bit of a dream job, really. Comedy is a fantastic, joyous thing to do because really you're making people laugh, making people's days a bit better, helping them process all manner of things. But, I also know that comedy is really subjective and everyone has different tastes. So we've got a huge range of comedy on offer, from satire to silly, shocking to soothing, profound to just general prattling about. So if you fancy a laugh, find your next comedy at BBC Sounds.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
How would you sum up your Scottish experience?
An experience.
Hello there and welcome to the Scottish Football Podcast, kick-starting your week after another weird and wonderful weekend in the national game. As we record, it's the evening on Sunday the 10th of March. I'm Liam McLeod, and here is what's coming up.
Kyogo can absolutely rubber stamp Celtic's place in the semi-final. Brilliant from Silva, and he buries it. And Rangers have killed this tie now.
We've Scottish Cup quarter-final reaction and analysis as Rangers put 9-man Hibs to the sword in the capital, and Celtic eventually secure victory over Livy. Also,
I only came up to help Dave and Alan out and to try and steady the ship, and unfortunately we haven't got the right results in the league, but I thought I ought to try and get through the cup, and I know they're well on the way now to getting a new manager.
After Warnock walked, what now for Aberdeen? And we're not done with the quarter-finals just yet.
Here's Oakley, Crawford trying to get up in support. He's the only other Morton player. He doesn't need him. He does not need him.
What can Hearts expect as they travel to Capello on Monday? Thank you very much for listening and downloading and subscribing if you've done all that. It's good to have you along with us. I've got Stephen O'Donnell, the Motherwell defender, former Scotland international, and another former Scotland international in the shape of Kevin Thompson, who played, of course, for both of the sides that met at Easter Road today. Just as we record this, it's not too long after the full-time whistle's gone at Easter Road. Kevin, it seemed to me to be a fairly balanced first half. Rangers obviously going in at the break with the 1-0 lead, but a little bit of an implosion from the Hibbies in the second half. Is that fair?
Yeah, probably, Liam. I think probably the game plan for Monty was to. Well, I would have liked to think that the game plan would have been to try and take the game at Rangers. I'm not so sure that happened in the first half. And obviously, like you said, in the second half, when the two red cards come, it probably put the nail in the coffin for the fact that Highbees to have a go, to be honest. I think it was a comfortable evening for Rangers, especially off the back of the heroics on Thursday night. I thought that the Highbees would maybe have a better fist at and try and take the game to Rangers, but probably overall it was comfortable enough.
We'll look a little bit closer at the match shortly. Stephen, I know you would have absolutely loved Motherwell to be involved still in the competition and looking forward to the cup tie, which would have been against Hearts, as it turns out. What's the week been like for you guys? Because you're off the back of that wonderful victory at Ibrox. You must have been ready to go again pretty quickly after that. Must be frustrating waiting for the next game.
Yeah, no, I think whenever you're off the back of such a good result, you just want the next game to come again. And I think maybe it helps bring you back down to earth that you've obviously been knocked out of the cup by Morton, who are playing against Hearts, and what will be a big game and one we'd love to have been involved in, as you said, and just what could have been possibly. Yeah,
well, it's been, another incredible weekend of drama in the Championship in Leagues 1 and 2 as well. No shortage of things to get through with Stephen and Kevin. We're also going to be hearing from Aberdeen fan JJ Bull of The Athletic about the situation at Pittodrie and what a situation it is. But before all that, here's the latest Scottish football headlines. So Rangers booked their place in the Scottish Cup semis with a 2-0 win over 9-man Hibernian in what was a bruising encounter at Easter Road on Sunday evening. They're joined there by Celtic, who overcame Livingston 4-2 earlier in the day, and Aberdeen, who beat Kilmarnock 3-1 on Saturday. Pittodrie's side have dominated the headlines since then, though, after interim manager Neil Warnock stepped down immediately after the match. The final quarter-final will take place on Monday night, with Hearts travelling to Championship side Morton, a match Stephen Naismith's predicted won't be nice for the Jambos. And in the Women's Scottish Cup, Rangers, Celtic, Hearts and Spartans have all booked their places in the semis. The draw for both the last four in the men and women's competitions will take place live on the BBC Scotland channel and BBC Radio Scotland at half-time and after the Morton Hearts game. We're going to get to Warnock and Aberdeen shortly. I know JJ is standing by for us, but let's talk about today's games first. Hibs Rangers. Kevin, we briefly touched on it there. A fair result in the end, Rangers going through.
Probably. I think the biggest disappointment from Hibs' perspective was obviously what unfolded within a couple of minutes of madness, really. And I suppose we could probably not got enough time to speak about the incidents just on this podcast. We'd be here all night, but it's
you can try.
We can try, and probably the Abita one was probably a wee bit soft, and then you could probably argue. I think, listen, I've been there myself. When sometimes you just need to get the crowd up, and an incident can sometimes spark it. Albeit you don't want to go down to 10 men, but I felt the game was just starting to bubble a wee bit, and Hibs were just starting to come into the game again, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, game dead really, because it's hard enough with 11 men against Rangers and Celtic, never mind with 10, and then obviously within a minute you're down to 9. So I think their chances were kind of put to bed quite quickly in a wee frenzy. Whether they were the right decisions or not is I suppose the debate. But I think overall, you know, when you look at the opportunities the Rangers created and the lack of opportunity that Hibs had to test Jack Butland in goal, apart from the wee mistake that I think he made in the first half, was probably the only real chance the Hibees created, really. So I think overall, I think it would be harsh to say that Rangers didn't deserve to go through.
It's been a good response to them losing to Stevens Motherwell at Ibrox, the draw in Portugal last week, which sets up that second leg against Benfica really nicely for Thursday. They led the game through that Lundstrom goal after the Tavernier's penalty was saved by David Marshall. But yeah, I mean, they're only 1-0 down when Obita gets the second yellow and Mariah Welsh, as Kevin was saying there 2 minutes later, is off, Stephen. And that kind of dissolved Hibernian's hopes of being able to take that tie to at least extra time.
Look, I think the form Rangers have been in is so imperative that you keep 11 men on the park. I know sometimes Kevin said that an aggressive tackle, I know it was an elbow for the first red, but can kind of lift the crowd. But to compete against a top side, especially this season with Rangers, that you need to be 11 men on the park, you need to stay composed, and whenever and kind of bide your time at 1-0, you're always in the game. It's a mistake, it's a half a chance or one bit of real quality and you're back in it. And I think that's that will probably be disappointing for the Hibs fans and the players, is that they just didn't maybe manage to keep their composure and keep the men on the park, which, as I said, 10 men it's tough, and 9 men it's virgin impossible. And look, I think it was good for a lot of talking points. Silva, obviously for Rangers, done well when they came on against us, and I think it's off the back of the result against us, the Rangers fans will be delighted with the bounce back. Benfica's a brilliant result for Scotland, and then obviously tonight for the Rangers fans going through the next round.
It has been a good reaction, Kevin, hasn't it, from Rangers at the performance today. At times it had to be of the battling nature, but they've kind of shown under Philippe Clement that they've got different ways of tackling these situations, and today was another example of it.
I think whenever there's a setback for the Old Firm game, you always get questioned, your mentality gets questioned, your character gets questioned, you're under the scrutiny, everybody wanting to knock you down. It's what comes with being an Old Firm player, unfortunately. So I think to go to Benfica and put on the performance that they put on to keep the tie alive against a real top team is testament to, as Stephen said, the kind of form that Rangers are in. Listen, they've got one trophy in the cabinet already, but a long, long way to go to try and get another. And if the season was to filter out off the back of a disappointment result, albeit a brilliant result for Motherwell, and Stephen will tell you how hard it is to go there and win. So when they do come along, they don't come very often. I'm pretty sure the bookies' odds would tell you that Motherwell were mightily up against it to go to Ibrox and win, but they did. And to be fair, I watched them earlier on in the season. I don't know if Stephen will remember the game, the 1-0 game. I remember speaking to Kenny Miller afterwards, and Motherwell probably the best team domestically I've seen at Ibrox. And I've watched Rangers a lot this year because I've done the telly, I've been in the lounges, so it was no coincidence to see them go there and do really well. But from a Rangers perspective, to have to bounce back off the back of that, we're going away in Europe against the top team to then go to the Hibees, who have picked up form as well. The lone boys have come in and gave Monty a wee lift. I think it's testament to the character, plus the standards and the mentality that the managers got.
Just before we leave this match, Kevin, injuries for Rangers to Sterling and McCausland today. How big a blow will that be for them ahead of Benfica? And separately, how big a blow will this be for Hibs? Because obviously winning these cup competitions is what it's at for the clubs out with Celtic and Rangers.
I think Hibs need to try and keep the momentum going domestic to obviously try and get into that top 6 space. At one stage only a few weeks ago, before they've had picked up good recent results, obviously a point against the Jambos, beating Dundee. So I think they've started to build up a wee bit of momentum. As I touched on, the loan players have gave them a good bounce. I think they look quality additions. It's sometimes hard to bring in good loan players that can go straight in the team and make the team better. So I think Monty has to take a lot of credit in recruiting the right players. Whether they can retain them or they become a wee bit too expensive is another debate. I think for Rangers, I think you should touch on obviously Boyley's what looked like a horrific injury, so fingers crossed Boyley's okay, which is obviously looked a serious head knock as well, so fingers crossed. Listen, I hate to see anyone get injured. I've been there myself. It's horrible, it's dark days, but let's hope Boyley's okay. And from a Rangers perspective, I think Sterling is a unique one, because listen, without doing Roscoe a disservice, he's probably the one that, if you think you like the engine room when it comes to being versatile, he can cover it left back, he can cover it right back. Obviously Tav's a machine, but I think when you look at John Lundstrom, who obviously plays almost every minute, every game, Tom Lawrence has obviously played in there. So I think Sterling will be a worry for the manager, because I think he brings a lot of versatility and a lot of cover into a lot of positions. So let's hope for both of them it's not long term.
Yeah, it took his goal well in Lisbon the other night. The other match that was played today in the quarters was Celtic Livingston. It was 4-2 in the end to the holders, Stephen, but I think it's fair to say that they were made to work for it against the side currently anchoring the Premiership. It was a game that I covered for Sportsound today, and Livy put up a good fight.
Probably not too similar to the kind of way it worked for us last week at Ibrox. We had some chances. Celtic had more than Livingston, but Livingston had enough kind of good opportunities that they could have got a few more even. But again, Celtic's got the quality with Maeda and Forum, and the 3 goals kind of trademark. The first one in behind, the third one I think it was as well, kind of Celtic get in behind you and the ball flashed across. So look, I think Livingston obviously performed well, but when you're conceding 4 goals, like we've done a few times this season, it's always going to be tough, especially against your Celtics and Rangers. And look, I think Livingston's main aspect was trying to build up some form in the league, but it would have obviously been nice to get a cup upset.
Brendan Rodgers said it wasn't comfortable. I think that's fair. They weren't at their best. There's been probably too many occasions that's been the case for the Celtic supporters and for the manager this season. They do miss Carter Vickers and Callum McGregor when they're not available, and Carter Vickers, we're told today by Brendan Rodgers, was being rested mainly as a precaution. Callum McGregor was up in the stand with us today, just a couple of seats along from me in the director's box. They do miss those two when they're not available, Kevin, don't they? It's so important that those two are in the side, particularly I feel Callum McGregor. He just makes them tick, doesn't he?
Yeah, listen, they're both linchpins of the team, Liam. They're 2 of the best players in the country. I think the captain's as good as anyone, and Carter Vickers is like playing with 2 players really in defence. I think he's so powerful, he's so quick. It allows Celtic to play that real high line and almost suffocate teams. I think he's got speed in abundance, which helps him to recover, obviously. You could almost argue a bit like when they had Virgil van Dijk. I'm not putting him in the same light, but to be an old firm centre-back, you need to be brave enough to play in the halfway line, which is vulnerable. I'm pretty sure if you ask any of them, that's the way the game looks when you play at centre-back for Rangers or Celtic. I think Carter Vickers then has that power and speed and the recovery speed to play that high line, which allows Celtic to keep the momentum and the pressure on, which they do anyway. But I think they're always vulnerable to teams, any team at the moment, when they don't have Carter Vickers in the team. I think he's a top player, and he has been a big miss for them, and it just shows you. You think everybody else for Stephen and his predicament at Motherwell, when Motherwell lose 1 or 2 players, how difficult it is. And then we're talking about Celtic with the budget, with the players, the resources they've got. When they lose 1 or 2 of the top players, it's amazing how it can stop your momentum. So listen, everybody's in the same boat. If you get bad luck on injuries, you need to rely on your squad. Brendan needs to manipulate everybody to get the best out of them. And the harsh reality is they've huffed and puffed this year, but they're still in the league, they're still in the Scottish Cup. It can still be a successful season. So it seems almost ludicrous to be disrespectful to them, because they're a real good team, a real top manager. And listen, it's all to play for, I suppose. And from a Blue perspective, they're in the same boat, aren't they?
You're spot on with Carter Vickers. When he came on against us a couple of weeks ago, he was the difference at half time when he came on, and it's the small things, like when the ball gets put in behind, maybe no one criticise it, but the centre back knocks out for a throw in. Carter Vickers takes a touch and plays again, and it starts them on the attack again. He goes back to Joe Hart. And it does, as Kevin said, build the pressure, allow them to just sustain attacks, and becomes ominous for the team trying to get a wee bit of a respite.
Yeah, it was a Maeda hat-trick. Kyogo got the other one, but 2 fabulous goals for Livingston. Dan Mackay made it 1-1, and then Tete Yengi made it 2-2. And for them, Stephen, I know you guys are more probably focusing on the top 6 just now, but for Livingston, the performance today, the goals they scored, and recent performances have been a bit better as well. They'll take heart from that, won't they? Their next match is away to Hibs. They've won there already this season. I think that's their only away win in the league. They'll take heart from that. I think David Martindale said that in the wake of the game.
100%. I don't think you're ever going to get judged. It's the same as ourselves for how you perform against Old Firm. You obviously want to compete and do well, but you need to be picking up the points in the other games, definitely, and anything from Old Firm's a bonus. In the Cup, as I said, it'd be a free hit for them, and they performed really well, and hopefully it does give them a bit of confidence. Touching on yourself, obviously I think we'll wait till we're safe mathematically from 11th, but obviously we had a decent enough run recently. But no, we played Livingston a couple of weeks ago. We went 1-0 down, and they've got good players, they've got some quality. It's just maybe when you're on that kind of dip and form, things go against you, and then we managed to get back into the game and win it. So there is hope for Livingston. It's obviously difficult, and the longer you're down at the bottom, the more difficult it becomes.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.
Right then, on to the news that, I was away to say shocked Scottish football. It certainly shocked us sitting in the car leaving Pittodrie yesterday. I think it was just about half an hour after full time. Neil Warnock stepping down as interim manager after just 32 days in charge, after watching his side earn only the second win of his tenure, the 3-1 win over Kilmarnock in that Scottish Cup quarter-final. The other win that he managed was the previous round against Bonnyrigg. JG Bull's been waiting patiently, listening in, hopefully interested in what the guys have been saying about the other matches. But what was your reaction to the news, JG? I think it was three of us in the car, I think we were all pretty stunned. Probably the timing more than anything.
It caught everyone by surprise. I don't think, I didn't expect it. I just assumed he'd be there till the end of the season. Someone would be announced closer to the end of the season, and they come in and get a couple of games watching in the stadium so they can safely pass over the keys to whoever comes in next. But no, very odd that he's gone. It seems to have been predetermined. They decided midweek, I've read, that they wanted to, they decided between him and Cormac that he would leave because he only came to help them out for a little bit of time. But I mean, what a legacy he's left behind.
He has. He's left a semi-final spot, that's for sure. The club have got a lot of work to do in the league. He was unable to win a match in the league, which I kind of felt, JJ, that if the result hadn't gone their way yesterday, that he would have walked. I was very surprised that he takes them in the semi and it happens. How do you reflect on the 32 days of Neil Warnock?
It was, in some ways, it's a bit of fun. It's very random that it happened. And he's got a lot of experience in different clubs. You thought this kind of guy would be able to come in and make use of some of the players that are there. Like the idea being that a very experienced manager might have a different way of doing things than what a inexperienced manager like Barry Robson might have done in the past. So maybe you've got that. What I think you've seen instead is that the guys come in, quickly realise that the squad's been built. It's impossible to do anything other than really play with the back three and wing backs. That's all they've really got, no width wide. He took in Junior Hoylett, which might turn out to be quite a good thing. Having a wide player is useful now and again. And so he's came in, that squad's not quite perfect for him. He said some of the right things in press conferences. I think people liked, like Aberdeen, we can definitely have a go at these kind of guys, and people like to hear that, Aberdeen fans. They don't want to be told that there's no hope. People like to have hope. And so I think he gave a little bit of that at the start and then quickly realised that there was little hope. And now he has departed with the semi-final is good, but I think people will remember more of the circus affair of it rather than the very direct football or the results.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say that what's going on behind the scenes just now is a little bit chaotic, and I think the supporters are just basking in the fact that they've got through to their second semi-final of the season, having got to the League Cup final, of course, earlier in the campaign. Who would you like to see come in to take the reins? Because the way they were talking yesterday, and as we recorded Sunday, so Saturday, they were talking about how they were getting to the end of this process of appointing the new full-time manager. Who would you like to see come in, and who do you think will come in?
Well, I mean, this is the big question, right? I think there's two ways they could go with this. I think one is to go for what works in Scottish football, which tends to be a good man manager, nothing too fancy. You get good players, you get characters in, and they're quite heavily involved with recruitment and try and get the kind of players, the kind of characters they want in the team and that takes you forward. Someone like, what Derek McInnes was before Aberdeen, that sort of manager. Hard to break down, not hugely exciting, but if you get good players in, you choose the right ones, it kind of works. But they've had this German consultancy firm in looking at the club like a root and branch thing to try and see what the direction should be. And so the other way they could go off the back of this German consultancy firm would be looking at someone in German or Austrian football. And the reason I think that would be a good thing to do, I don't have any names, so it's kind of a bit of a weaselly way out of it. But I think Aberdeen's budget, they've been able to spend some more money in the last couple of years, which has been good, but you can't just have that many players replacing. It's too many players at once. Maybe 3 or 4 key players you can get away with, but 10 or 11 coming in it's not sustainable. And so if you look at Aberdeen, the players they can bring in, I think they struggle to get players who are really good technically on the ball. You can get some good ones now and again, but they get pinched straight away. So if you can't get the best players on the ball, the best thing probably is to look for a coach or a manager who really excels out of possession and admires things you see in German football, especially in Austrian. So if you're really, really good out of possession and you can play with like hybrid press thing that all the elite teams are doing at the moment, then that would be the way I think you can gain a sort of advantage in Scotland, would be what I'd want to do. But then you have to go for someone who's probably young, upcoming, will leave at any time because they'll get more money and a bigger offer somewhere else. But it's quite a good job. But a nameless manager on the up who has proven themselves to be very handy with out of possession coaching is what I'd want. It's very specific and nerdy, I know, but I think that's the answer.
It's a good answer, but I was looking for 2 names and you didn't give me one, but we're going to let you off, JJ, because it was a good answer and I understand what you're saying. And look, a new manager coming in and being pinched by another club isn't something that Aberdeen have experienced, I don't think, since Alec Ferguson. So as well as Derek McInnes did, of course, he left under a Dave Cormack-shaped cloud 3 years ago. Kevin, listening into that, looking from the outside in at what's going on at Aberdeen just now, what's your feelings about what's going on there? And does it seem chaotic to you?
That's a compliment, Liam, chaotic. A team that played in Europe at the start of the season, a team that's already been to a National Cup final, sacked the manager. I said when I was on here 2-3 weeks ago that I thought Aberdeen were in a relegation battle, and I was questioned on it. I think they're in free fall. I think the Neil Warnock appointment was really short-sighted. I think it was a mockery, really. And listen, I've got the utmost respect for Neil Warnock, but I just think it was really amateur, really, I think, for Aberdeen to do what they've done. And in my opinion, they're now paying the price. And they're in a serious relegation battle, 4 points above Ross County, in free fall. Struggle to win a game, struggle to have any style. They're reliant on the striker, Miovski. He's the difference every week. And for
such 6 games without a goal now, so that would be a concern if they hadn't just booked their place in the semis.
He's a top player, Liam. He's still a top player. So
totally.
I see Warnock obviously bigging him up in the press. Is he getting the best out of these players? So to me, I think the modern day game, Stephen will tell you, listen, at a different generation, Stephen, he'll see the young ones coming through. He'll see how it's different for him to be treated compared to other players. But at the same time, you need to get the best out of them. What's right for Stephen O'Donnell might be totally different for Lennon Miller. It's just the way it is. It's the way the game's evolved. And listen, I'm pretty sure Neil Warnock has been in loads of different scores. Of course he has. He's got far more experience than me. But what I would say is he's not got far more experience than a lot of us in Scottish football. And it's different up here. It's different. And that's just the way it is. And I think there's too many people that come up here to a wonderful club with a brilliant budget, with a brilliant fan base, with brilliant resources, with their own academy, that produce young players, with a brilliant new training facility. They're massively underachieving for me, Liam.
Could I ask what it is you think's different with Scottish football towards, why Warnock wouldn't just be able to drop into it?
Just players are different, JJ.
The mentality of individuals? Or
possibly. Listen, and it's difficult. There's so much. Listen, I played at Middlesbrough down the road and there's hardly any pressure. It's a fishbowl up here. You're scrutinised. And by the way, when the Old Firm are there, it's there for everybody to see. The pressure, and in Scottish football, it's a fight for everything, for existence, for every throw-in, for every corner. You need to roll your sleeves up and you need to graft, and it catches so many people out. And I say it all the time, it's unique up here. Listen, it might not be the best. We might not have the best players, we might not have the biggest budget, we might not get the best TV deals, but it's really unique up here. And I think a lot of people underestimate how difficult it is to play in Scottish football, never mind manage it. And listen, players are different. It's they didn't get vast amount of money playing out with the Old Firm. So these boys are grafting. It's different mentalities, it's different personalities that you need to handle. And the game's unique in Scotland because you get Saturday to Saturday. Stephen will tell you, you recover. But I bet you when he goes away in international football, it's totally different. He'll maybe give us an insight into what it feels like. different training with different players. The mentality of John McGinn compared to different players in the squad, it's just totally different. And I think you're naive to think that you can just come up here in any certain league that you can just achieve the same miracles that you might achieve somewhere else.
It's probably unfair of me to ask Stephen too much about Aberdeen, because they're playing them, I think, on Saturday coming up. And when he was on Sportsound with me last month, I was asking him about it, and they were playing them a week or two after that. So it's probably a little bit unfair, but it could be they've got a new manager in place for that game at Fir Park, Stephen, and probably, or potentially, would make it a tougher challenge for you.
I think for us, we just hope that it doesn't come like that kind of bounce that tends to happen when a manager leaves. Obviously, Aberdeen are a good side. They've got good players. I do think they're underachieving massively for the budget they've got and the players they have on paper. But when you change a manager, obviously the club's got to back the manager. So bringing in players, I know, JJ, you were maybe criticising, I'm assuming you want to play with wingers and you want to play attractive, high wingers getting on at fullbacks. But when teams set up organised against you, it's maybe difficult. And with Robson operating with a back five or a 3-5, however you want to pitch it, I think you're going to sign wing backs. You're going to, I think there's been a lot of criticism in our recruitment. But if you play with wing backs, of course you're going to want to sign wing backs. If that doesn't work, then it's your choice as the manager. So I think that's a bit harsh, criticising somebody's recruitment. Maybe it doesn't work. Maybe they're not good enough players. That's a different question. But look, I think I was just surprised when Warnock's left there, because I thought he was going to be into the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, just finally on this, JJ, Stephen's talking about the recruitment there. You were talking about it, and you know they've brought Junior Hoylett in, yet they spent a decent outlay on Vicente Bizauen, who's away on loan in the Dutch second tier again, having been farmed out. He's not played since a certain Scottish Cup tie last season. There have been question marks over the recruitment, given the amount of money they've spent on some players who haven't made an impact and who aren't at the club anymore.
Yeah, I don't think it's harsh at all to criticise the recruitment. I think I entirely agree when you're trying to build the system that they're trying to play. Like, clearly the agreement, I think, in the summer with Robson was that they wanted to try and build this. I think it's based on like Diego Simeone type, really hard to break down. Like, you look at what clubs have broken the duopoly elsewhere, and it is in Spain is a good example, and Simeone's playing that way. Scotland play a similar way. So I think they've built the squad with that, but there's no room to change that. There really are no wingers. It was one of the first things what Warnock basically said when he came in, was that the squad's really lacking in areas. And it is just, if you want to play back three, you can still play with wingers. You can still put them and have them inside, whatever. You know, it's just like having a squad to be able to play around. So if you're a manager, I'd imagine you'd want to have some options now and again, but there's very limited there. And it could be that they ran out of time to get them in. I think the bigger problem with the recruitment has been the amount of change that has happened. It's been an awful lot, and I think that's very difficult to keep a core of players and then develop and build on that. If you change it all, you lose something, and it takes a while to gel, maybe like 6 months. By the time your 6 months are really gelled, suddenly the manager's out the door.
You're listening to the Scottish Football Podcast.
We're going to wrap things up with the quarter final. Hearts travelling to Greenock to take on Morton, live on Sports Scene on Monday night, or tonight, if you're listening to this on Monday morning. Stephen, in particular, I feel sorry to bring this up, obviously because of what happened to you guys in the last round, but what it does do is it'll be a real warning to Hearts because of the fact that they knocked you guys out in the last round.
Yeah, no, look, I think definitely it was a tough night. I think if you watched it back, the conditions weren't great, the pitch wasn't great, and as Kevin spoke about winning the battle, I think that's just something we didn't do. And if Hearts want to go and get a result, they're going to definitely need to win the battle first. And beyond that, Hearts have got some top quality that should be enough to win the game. But I know that Morton, for a fact, will be making it as hard as possible, and any advantage they can get, they'll be using.
Tell you what, Kevin, they're expecting their biggest crowd at Capello in 40 years. It's going to be some atmosphere, isn't it?
Yeah, he's done a brilliant job, to be fair to him, and so is Nazy. Two young managers that are doing really well. Both managers that have went through tough times. Nazy at the start of the season, that he was the talking point every week that the Jambos fans weren't really having him, and he's managed to turn it around. And Dougie was the same, down at the bottom of the league, struggling at the start of the season, and they went on that brilliant run. I don't know what it was 14, 15 games or something unbeaten until it came to the end there. So I just picked up another manager of the month. I was away in Romania in the summer. I didn't know him that well, to be fair, Dougie, but spent a bit of time in the summer on our pro licence in Romania, and a great lad, and almost manages and coaches the same way as he played. So, Morton will be fired up. There'll be, as Stephen mentioned, it's totally different for Hearts going to Airdrie on a nice plastic pitch, and the style that Airdrie have compared to the style that Morton have. You know, a bit more direct. Big Robbie Muirhead up front obviously is a handful, so difficult conditions. The pitch I'm pretty sure will not be a bowling green, so I'm pretty sure they'll use the crowd and the, you know, fighting for every throw-in, for every corner to utilise the opportunities when they come a set play. I'm pretty sure they'll do some work on trying to have something up their sleeve, because you need that when you play against the big boys. And then for Nazy's perspective and the Hearts boys, they're going to need to go there and, without being critical to Stephen and the boys, be slightly different from what Motherwell were and meet that battle in the glorious Scottish Cup ties that are almost hustle and bustle and 500 mile per hour, and show the composure and hopefully the quality to try and get through it.
Stephen, you guys played them in the middle of last month at Tynecastle. How difficult a proposition are Hearts just now, and can they go all the way in this tournament?
Yeah, no, I certainly think that they could. I think they've got, I say, when you get something like Shankland up top, there wasn't much in the game against us until a cross comes in, he gets a header for 12 yards out and it's in the bottom corner and 1-0 up. The game changes, the crowd goes from being a wee bit restless to being full of confidence, and then it just becomes a difficult task. I think they've got some injury problems, but I think when Hearts' full team's out, I think they've got a right good starting 11 that could compete in any day with Old Firm. It's just obviously Kevin Bean at Hibs, obviously, and then in Rangers, like, to compete with them over the course is where it becomes really difficult for the bigger clubs. Even ourselves at Kilmarnock, when we were doing well when I was at Kilmarnock, to compete for the full season, because the squad that they have versus maybe the squad you have yourself. So again, Hearts got a great starting 11. I think they've got some good players. Nazy's got them set up brilliantly. As Kevin said, was under a bit of pressure at the start of the season, and great to see, because it's easy for owners to just kind of ship the manager as soon as there's a bit of pressure. And it's nice to see the manager repay.
Guys, thank you very much for joining us on the Scottish Football Podcast. That's all we've got time for just now. Kevin Thompson, Stephen O'Donnell and JJ Bull. And thank you for listening. Remember, Morton v Hearts is live on the BBC Scotland TV channel from 7:30 tonight, and in BBC Radio Scotland Extra from 7. And we publish new episodes every weekday morning, so you can get your daily dose of Scottish football bright and early every day. So if you haven't done so already, just follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Enjoy the game tonight, and we'll speak to you soon.
The Scotland Rugby Podcast is now available every Tuesday. Join me, Andy Burke and Tom English. Just head to BBC Sounds and subscribe to the Scotland Rugby Podcast.
It's just seismic stuff.
There's bucket hats as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is this a rugby podcast or is this a fashion podcast?
Why can't it be a bit of both?
Rugby. Let's get on to rugby.
There's a lot to be excited about.
Today's guest, John McGuigan.
Clubs are at the absolute bedrock of everything Scottish rugby's about.
The Rugby Sports Sound Podcast from BBC Radio Scotland.
You cannot help but be so excited.
It's going to be the centre of the rugby universe.
BBC Sounds.
He's the best midfielder in the world at the moment.
The football season is in full swing on BBC Sounds.
They've still got their best football to play, which is huge.
With everything to play for in the Premier League and Champions League.
It's an enormous win that will give them hope.
Hear the latest news, insight and analysis with Football Daily.
We want to see emotions, we want to see players that care.
If they can get momentum going in the league, they can take that into both competitions.
And listen to games as they happen on BBC Radio 5 Live.
What an incredible game.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
It was probably mentality, to be honest. Just proper believing in yourself. I think it's not an easy thing to do if you've not got that natural confidence, and it was never ever something I had when I was a kid, but it seems to have developed as I've got a bit older, and you realise that you do need to back yourself and you do need to believe in yourself.
Hello and welcome to a special bonus episode of the Scottish Football Podcast, featuring a man who's been hitting the headlines and hitting the net more than anyone else in Scottish football this season.
It's the cross ball into the box, a useful shot for Shankland, who hits home! Oh yes, oh yes, what a strike! Lawrence Shankland, magnificent.
Bashiri's lost up the other end here, Shankland's in,
Scores! Oh, a goal, lads! 6 in a row for the main man! Slips, come back to Shankland, goal!
Hearts captain Lawrence Shankland is in the form of his life, and with Euro 2024 on the horizon, it could be that not for the first time in his career, he's timing his run to perfection. So to find out a little bit more about how he got to this point, BBC Sports Scotland reporter Brian McLaughlin sat down with him for an in-depth interview about his journey from amateur football and working outside the game to scoring for Scotland. And in an open and frank conversation, he discusses the sliding doors moment that led to his career-changing move to Ayr United, his difficult spell in Belgium, dealing with transfer speculation, and his international ambitions.
Well, Lawrence, first of all, congratulations. Over 200 goals in club football at the moment. Did you ever feel that you would have reached that sort of number in terms of scoring at professional level?
Probably not, to be honest. Of course, you'd always dream of scoring that amount of goals, but that's a good return. Obviously, surpassing 200 is a good achievement in itself for my career, so I can be pleased with that.
I take you way back, born in Glasgow. What was school like? What was school football like for you?
I didn't play school football till I was in high school, just due to I was involved with Hearts at the time when I was at primary school, so you weren't allowed to play for your school team, which is bizarre. Now that I look back, I should have just played, but no, you weren't allowed to be involved because of the academy rules and stuff. But when I went to high school, I was at Queen's Park at the time, and that's where I started to play for the school and that, and it was enjoyable. I'm glad I did it. Getting on the bus trips with your pals and stuff, it's memories that will stick with you.
So you were in the Hearts Academy at a very, very young age. What was that like?
I was 8 till I was about 11 or 12, I think. So I flew here 3 nights a week, thanks to my man and dad and the minibus drivers that used to pick us up and take us through. So that was a big commitment, obviously, for such a young age, and especially for my parents and that as well, to bring me through here. It was tough at times, but it's turned out to be worth it.
What was that like though, coming through to Hearts? Because when you're 8, 9, 10-year-old, this big football club, professional, did you have dreams then of actually playing in the first team at Hearts?
I don't think you probably see it as that. I think you just know that you're at a good football club. Obviously you're at the boys clubs and stuff when you're younger, and then when you come to an academy you realise the setup's obviously a step up, but you're that young that you're probably oblivious to what could be the possibility when you're older, and I think you're just enjoying your football at the time.
Well, you went to Queen's Park, I think it was Gardner Spears who was the coach here. What was that like, going into an amateur club, but you're walking in the shadows of Hampden Park at that point?
I'd been through here, and then I spent a wee bit of time at Rangers training as well, so it was weird going to Queen's Park. It was a totally different setup. You trained at a school that obviously didn't have the facilities that these clubs have had and could use, but weirdly it was where I seemed to enjoy it the most. Just back to grounding, it was like being a kid again. Just really enjoyed that side of it, and it was obviously a lower level as well, so I think there was more of a platform to just go and enjoy yourself and try and develop. There was a bit less pressure probably at that time, and I seemed to just enjoy it there, and that's kind of where I thrived.
You weren't alone there though, were you? Andy Robertson was there.
No, that's it. I think I was probably 2 years into it before Robbo came, because he was at Celtic at the time. We first played together at under 17s. But it was weird, our set-up at 17s, there was a team that played in the SPL League and there was a team that played in the SFL League. So that was looked upon as an A and B team, and me and Robbo were in the B team, to be fair, so it turned out alright.
It certainly did. Could you always tell that Andy Robertson had it in him then to go into the level that he's at now?
I don't think anybody that ever predicted that, to be honest. What he's went on and achieved is amazing. Really pleased for him, obviously, and to get the chance to play when you're younger and see that full journey has been mad. And obviously to get the chance to play with him at international level as well is something that we both could have only dreamed of. So no, he's always had the talent. He was always a full back up and down the pitch, and obviously the potential was there and it got noticed.
You had to work as well, didn't you? Tell us about your work then.
That was when I went obviously part-time with the first team. I left school and got Queen's Park gave me a job in a McAlpine factory out in Hillington, so I didn't really know what I was doing, to be honest. I was just kind of cutting about doing a bit of labouring, and one of the guys in there was trying to teach me a bit of tool setting and stuff, but I wasn't there too long, to be honest. I think it was maybe 4 or 5 months, and I realised that I think I just saved up all my wages, and I knew that I could live for the next 4 months to try and go full time after that. Was that
always the plan though, to try and find a way to get to a full-time football club?
For me, aye. I don't know if the guy in McAlpines knew that, because I think they phoned me after Christmas and I was like, I'm not coming back. So I just kind of took my wages and kept them. So aye, I don't know if he was too happy about that, but in my head it was always my plan to just try and work hard and try and get full time.
You were a young lad though, and then Aberdeen came calling. That must have been quite daunting, leaving home for the first time, leaving Glasgow and going to what I suspect probably a different world up in Aberdeen.
At the time I probably didn't realise it, but now I'm a bit older and wiser. It was probably a big change for me, and obviously a big leap moving away, living yourself, and you're so young. You don't feel young at the time because you're involved with your first team and stuff, but I was obviously just a kid. When I see the kids coming through now that are my age, I think, well, I was really young to do that, what I did. But no, it was part of the experience, part of my journey and my career, and I've no regrets with that at all.
In terms of what you learned though, can you pass that knowledge on now to some of the youngsters coming through here?
I think I can. There's moments in training and in games and stuff where you kind of see things that you maybe done when you were younger and did wrong, and I think it's important that you point it out to the young guys, and obviously you can give them pointers here and there and make them learn quicker, hopefully, than I maybe did. So of course, that's what we're here for, as experienced players, to try and teach them. How
difficult was it? Because you had been playing first team football at Queen's Park, but primarily Aberdeen, you weren't playing first team, you were going under 20 then. It must have been tough to try and negotiate that and try and navigate your way to get into a first team that was doing really well at the time.
No, listen, it was a strong club and strong team that I went to. At the time it was probably a really big jump for me. Of course I was involved with the development team to start with, and that was where I played quite a lot of the football, and which is fine at that age, to be honest. I was obviously still a kid, and I'd went for the bottom division to the top division, so it's not going to be an easy transition unless you're Robbo and he just slots himself right in the first team. But for me it wasn't. It was slightly different. But no, it's one of those things. It obviously took time. Eventually I worked my way into the first team, but it just didn't quite go to plan in the end.
When you talk about Robbo there, I mean, Andy left at the same time as you, I think, or around about the same time anyway, along with Aidan Conley. I think the pair of them went to Dundee United, and you went to Aberdeen. Did you stay in touch? And was it a matter of giving each other a phone to try and how's it going there? And likewise they would be asking you.
No, we did. We all kept in touch. Obviously, mobiles came into play at that age, so that was easy to keep in touch with everybody, and you see it on social media and stuff as well, and we were always texting, so that was good, especially at such a young age when you're all kind of in the same situation where you've moved away.
You had a lot of loan periods away. Was that through you saying to the management team in Aberdeen that you thought you had to go out really to try and gain first team experience, or were they saying to you, you need to get experience?
The first one was Dunfermline, and it was actually Derek pulled me into the office and said to me that he felt it would be good for me to go out on loan. I was playing at the 20s at the time, and I think obviously being first team I was a wee bit ahead of that level probably at that point, so he felt it would be good for me to go out and get some games. So I went to Dunfermline, I think I got like 14, 15 games, 7 goals I think I got there, so it was good, a good experience for me. It was obviously a league up for where I'd played with Queen's Park as well, so it was a good step for me, and then just unfortunately got a wee injury at the end and missed the playoffs.
Yeah, that was sad, because obviously Dunfermline it was Jim Jeffries I think was the manager there, but that also was a troublesome time for the club as well, because they ended up being in administration.
I did obviously found ourselves in the leagues as well, so they were trying to get themselves back up, and actually had a good team to be fair, but on the day Cowden Beef played really, really well and they went through.
And St Mirren as well, with a couple of loan spells there, didn't you?
2 spells, aye. My first one was alright to be fair. I think I was 10 goals I got there, and that was obviously my first taste of the Championship as well. St Mirren was a team that came down for the Premier League, so it was quite a big club to go to for me. And I thought I'd done well the first season. Second season didn't go quite as well. I think I started many games, maybe 2 or 3 when I was there. Didn't quite work out. And then when I left there, I went straight to Bolton.
Yeah. When you were at St Mirren, were you back home again?
Aye, back living in Glasgow. So it was a wee bit up and down, quite a lot to be honest, because I think probably the second spell, I maybe enjoyed that aspect of it, being back down the road, and for the first one, and that was maybe why I wanted to go back. But they say maybe sometimes you shouldn't go back, so maybe I shouldn't. Somebody did tell me that, to be fair. Big Stephen Thompson said to me, don't come back, you've done well, but I should have listened to him.
It's not often Tom will say his words of wisdom, but yeah, sometimes you've got to listen.
Fair, it was on a night out as well, but he was speaking sense.
But St Mirren round about that time as well, the manager then was it Jim Goodwin?
It was Ian Murray initially.
Oh, Ian, yeah.
And then he left and Alex Ray came in. That was my first season. Alex Ray finished that season, and then I went back and Alex was there, and then he left and Jack Ross came in at the time. And to be honest, when Jack Ross came in, I hadn't been playing, and I guess probably quite low in confidence now I look back. Wasn't training, playing very well, so I think he probably seen a worse version of me than what was actually available. But he decided that it was probably better for me to move on.
Looking back, are there things that you would have done differently?
It's hard to pinpoint it, but I think it comes with experience as well, and just maturing and getting older. I think you probably dive into things when you're younger that you don't really need to, and you realise that as you get a wiser head that you're probably over worried at times. And I think that was probably one of my biggest things. I was always a thinker, overthinking every situation and reading into things that turns out I didn't need to. Of course, you could always say there's things you'd do different, but at the time it's just part of your learning and part of your journey, really.
It's interesting because I remember your name was everywhere. You had a great reputation at Queen's Park. You'd gone up as being the next big thing to go to Pittodrie. It didn't quite work out, and then you went elsewhere and you scored goals at St Mirren, you scored goals at Dunfermline, but there seemed to be something just holding you back from making that breakthrough at a top club. Could you feel a sense of frustration there, that you knew they had the talent, but for some reason it just wasn't happening?
It was probably mentality, to be honest. Just proper believing in yourself. I think it's not an easy thing to do if you've not got that natural confidence, and it was never ever something I had when I was a kid, but it seems to have developed as I've got a bit older, and you realise that you do need to back yourself and you do need to believe in yourself, and working on your mindset as well. It's something I've done over the years, and I felt it was something that's really improved me as a player.
After the loan spell at Morton, you were released by Aberdeen and you were a free agent. How difficult a time was that for you? Or did you have options available to you?
No, nothing at all. It was tough. Just asking for trials here and there. I went and down south in a couple of trials. Nothing really came in them. I went to Swansea, the youth team, and I actually done really well there. Trained really well, and they were quite impressed with me, but it was just at the age where I'd have been getting into my last year at the 23s. So to be honest, I think I took a lot of confidence for that trial, because I realised that I was playing obviously what they seen as the top players in their academy, and when I seen myself doing well there, I thought, you know what, I've actually got a chance of getting back in somewhere here. So that was probably the turning point in that period, that I thought, right, I just need to try and keep myself fit and get myself a team, and if the chance comes I'll be ready. And obviously, thankfully enough, Ian McLeod picked up the phone.
Yeah, Swansea's a fantastic setup though, isn't it? And I've been down to training ground, it's magnificent.
It was really impressive, and it was only, I think it was 2 weeks training I went down for, but just the whole experience of it, seeing what was there and available, the facilities that you could go and maybe get one day. Obviously at that point it was a bit too soon or too late maybe for me at that point, but no, as I said, I took a lot of confidence for that. I think that I could go and mix it at that level with the boys, and as I said, it was all about being ready after that.
Was Ian McCall taking a little bit of a risk when he brought you in? Or possibly. Did you take a risk and go to Ayr?
No, not at all. To be honest, the risk would have been 6 months before when I went to Morton, and the gaffer Ian McCall's been quite vocal about it. And I left him in a car park because I was on my way to sign for there, and they were both in the league, and then Morton phoned me as I was on the way, and I changed my mind and I went there. So he very easily could have held a grudge, and thankfully enough he didn't, and he gave me another chance. And when I spoke to him, he was just like, come in and train, we'll see how you are. I think I trained for 2 days and he signed me.
That's a sliding doors moment, isn't it?
That was it, aye. He obviously recognised that there was something in me that he liked and he could see, and to be honest, he brought out the best for me the minute I walked in the door.
In terms of confidence, how much did that help you in going there and being loved and being and the knowledge that you're going to be playing most Saturdays and that the manager really believed in you?
I think at the time I got an injury. I think it might have been Murray, might have got injured. Somebody did, and I just opened up a space. Obviously needed a striker, and I was just waiting on that chance, and thankfully enough it came to me. And as I said, it was just about being ready for that. And when I went, and obviously I did well in training and they signed me, it was just, I feel like somebody had put a bit of belief in me again, and that's what it was all about. And then obviously when I got a good feel about the place, played my first game, scored against Rafe, and then for there it just never really stopped, and I had a really good time there, to be honest.
2-0, who else? Again, Shankland. It's a goal. Ayr United have done it again, and it's Lawrence Shankland, his 47th goal in 48 appearances for Ayr United. The man is unstoppable.
There was one real pivotal moment, I would say, the game at Tannadice against Dundee United when Ayr won 5-0, I think you scored 4 that night, and everybody, your name was in the back pages of every newspaper the following day. Did you feel that was the moment you thought, right, okay, I can really make this a good career now?
I think it probably put me back on the scene. Obviously I'd went down the levels and we'd done well at Ayr, we got promoted, and that was obviously in the championship season when we got that result, but that game was obviously on when they started broadcasting the TV games, and it was on TV and at Tannadice, and obviously a really big result, and obviously getting 4 goals was massive, and I think that was probably the one that kind of put me back on the map again. And it was a really enjoyable night, I'm not going to lie. Robbie Nielsen was obviously the manager at United at the time, and that was probably where I caught his eye as well.
Sticking with Ayr for a moment, there was one goal you scored Ayr, I think it might have been a League Cup tie. You scored from 53 yards, is that correct?
Thistle.
Thistle, yeah.
Aye.
Can you remember it?
I don't know if it was quite 53, but I'll take that. Might have been a bit shorter. No, it was obviously a good hit, quite instinctive at the time. I think everything I was doing at that point was quite instinctive, and just felt right, and I'm glad I did take it on.
I remember when you made the move, Ian McCall was saying, he kept on telling us you're going somewhere, but he didn't know where, because there was a lot of clubs looking at you at that point. Why was United the one you felt that was the next stage for you?
It just felt right when I spoke to them. The opportunity, obviously people kind of frowned when I stayed in the Championship, but it was more the size of the club and the opportunity I seen. I felt it was probably the biggest club that came in for me in terms of platform, support, and the size of the club in general, and I thought if I went there and I did well, it would give me a really good platform going forward. So that was probably the key parts of it.
You scored a goal for United as well against St Johnstone. I remember speaking to you after that goal as well. When you look back on that, I mean, I don't think anybody in the stadium that night expected you to shoot. Nonetheless, the St Johnstone goalkeeper for one. Can you remember it?
Oh, there's an audacious effort on goal! Oh, what a goal that is from Lawrence Shankland! It was played over the halfway line. He was 10 yards inside his opponent's half. He saw the goalkeeper off the line. He went for it first time. The goalkeeper, Xander Clark, scrambling to get back, simply couldn't. Stunning goal from Lawrence Shankland. Dundee United 2, St Johnstone 2. That was Gallus. What a fantastic.
Well, at the point, I didn't think I'd end up pals with Big Xander anyway, put it that way. But I think I was arguing with somebody just before it, and somebody had a go at me. And I'd hardly touched the ball. I think they told me to keep the ball, and I'd hardly touched it. And I was fuming, so I thought to myself, next time I get the ball, I'm shooting. And then it just rolled into my path, and I probably shouldn't have, but I did. And as I said, at the time, I was right beside the dugout. I think the manager would have probably just took me straight off if it never went in. But no, it was another man that was quite instinctive to me, and thankfully enough I managed to catch Xander out.
Brilliant. Scotland, you made your debut for Scotland in Russia, and then the following 4-0 defeat. But then the following week you scored your first goal for Scotland. How did that make you feel? And you know, was that sort of recognition for yourself that all the hard work you've done, all the pain that you've had to go through to get there, was that worth it? Did that make it worthwhile?
Definitely. Probably unexpected. Obviously playing in the Championship at the time, no very common thing you get a call up for there. I think John McGinn was maybe the one before that, when he was at Hibs, and then obviously myself. And as I said, it was probably an unexpected call up, but at the time I was doing really well and scoring goals, so the manager gave me a chance, and it was obviously a tough first game over in Russia, and I think that was probably, I think the manager will say it himself, probably the turning point in his Scotland career. And obviously it was a start of mine, and it was obviously a great feeling to get your national team debut, albeit the result, but at that point I think, probably selfishly, I was just thinking, no, I've just played for Scotland, and it was a massive achievement for me. And then obviously we went on to the San Marino game, and I got my first goal there. It was a game that I started, and I was quite keen. Obviously I knew chances would be coming, and I was obviously quite keen to score, but I think I stayed quite calm about the full thing, and I was quite patient, and obviously my goal came near the end, so that was a good night, and obviously a great night for the family and that as well.
Well, I'm still with Scotland. Last year, getting back into the squad again, scoring that goal in Georgia, how important do you feel that was for you to prove to others that you can hack it at international level?
That was good to obviously get back involved first and foremost. Found myself kind of in and out for a period, but no, it was good to be back in the squad, and obviously I was pleased with that, and I was just going in, and if you get the chance to try and make an impact. And obviously the Georgia goal was important, not just for me, but probably for the team as well. That I think lost 3 in the trot before that, and obviously wanted to bring that to an end. Georgia was a place I think we'd ever won as well, so we knew it was going to be a difficult game. And the more the game was going on, obviously I was on the bench, and you could kind of see the pressure building around our box, and I was thinking, hopefully I get a chance here to go on, because I could feel that I could maybe sniff something out. Thankfully enough, that actually happens to found me a really good cross, and it was just about getting my header on target, and thankfully enough it went.
Armstrong on the edge of the box, he's going to lift one to the back post. Scotland have numbers there, header on, what a chance into the back of the net, goal! Scotland have level, and it's Lawrence Shankland. What a moment for the Hearts striker.
Could you sense that I just need to get on? You could sense
it. I felt like that. Obviously as a striker you're reading the game and you're watching what's happening. There was a lot of pressure running about their box, we had a lot of possession, and obviously just try to kind of find a way to go. And as a striker it's just about going on there and trying to sniff out a chance, and as I said, it was obviously a great delivery for Armstrong, and I'm thankful enough I managed to get the header in the net.
Steve Clarke was at the game on Sunday against Celtic. Can you do any more to prove that you're ready for international football on a regular basis?
I don't think I ever look at it that way, that I need to really prove. I just like to do my job as best as I can when I'm at Hearts, and I believe if that's what I'm doing and I'm performing well at club level, that always gives you the best opportunity to be involved with an international team. That's kind of what I've done throughout my career, and the better form you're at your club, the more chance you get, and that's what it's all about really, and that's all I kind of like to do.
When you left Dundee United and went to Belgium, I think that was a surprise for a lot of people. Why did you choose Belgium?
I felt it was probably, I'd obviously been in Scotland for a while, I'd moved up through the leagues again, kind of for the start, and I felt it was just an opportunity that I thought I had to take at that point in my career. It was obviously quite a big change, it was a move abroad and stuff, but it was something that just kind of excited me as soon as it came in. I thought, you know what, I fancy that, I'd like to go and try it, and that was probably it. It was just it was a bit of a gamble. Obviously the team I went to, they'd finished 8th the year before, and when I went they were bottom of the table after 4 games I think. And I kind of thought maybe we'll get out it, but when I went it just never quite worked out. It was a wee bit messy at times. Obviously there was like 3 changes of manager as well, and I think the club probably just found themselves in quite a difficult period, and I kind of just joined at a wrong time. But I've nothing really bad to say about the club. It was a really good place, really good people, all the staff and stuff that worked there were great that I'd worked with, and it was probably just wrong timing really.
Yeah. Could you sense early doors though that what have you done? You know,
you can kind of get a feel. Not from the club, not for the players. They were all great with me when I went. It was obviously being a foreigner to them, and they were all very welcoming, and that was good. That helped me settle in pretty quickly. But the football side of it, we were struggling, to be honest. You can identify that we weren't going to be one of the stronger teams in the league, and it was going to be a difficult season. There was a few injuries in there as well, to be fair to the kind of key players for the season before, and that obviously made things a bit more difficult for us with a lot of young players, and it was just a really difficult season all in, but it was another experience, and I probably took a lot of it.
Yeah, in terms of, towards the end of the season you were there, did you feel that you had to come back to Scotland to realise your ambitions then?
I felt when I went to Belgium I wanted to play in the top league, and that's why I went. It was an opportunity to do that. Obviously when the team got relegated, it was probably an opportunity that I wasn't as keen on anymore, due to the second league over there is quite a weird setup. There's a lot of young teams in it for the bigger clubs over there, so it was probably something at my age I thought it's not really going to develop me, it's not really a time in my career to be playing like that, and it was probably a better opportunity for the younger boys at the club to go and develop, which they have done, to be honest, in the last 2 seasons. Obviously the opportunity to speak to Hearts came up, and then when that came about I was pretty keen to come here. It was obviously an opportunity for me to come back to Scotland, and it would be the biggest club that I'd played for here, and it was something I was keen to get done.
Yeah, the manager, Robbie Neilson, obviously you knew him. He must have played a huge part in convincing you to come.
Of course, when you've worked with people before and you've been successful together, it kind of makes it an easy decision. You've not got too much to think about in terms of that, so he felt it was something that I could come here and do well. I felt I'd come here and do well, so it was pretty even thinking when it came to that, and it turned out to be the case.
Within 6 months, you've got the club captaincy through obviously the injury to Craig Gordon. How do you feel that that's helped you develop, not only as a player, but become more mature as well? Because you look after yourself when you're a player, but you've got responsibilities now as captain.
No, that's it. There's obviously elements you kind of pick up along the way. I'm probably nearly a year and a half into that captaincy kind of role, and it's been good. It's been a good kind of learning experience for me. Obviously, you do need to take into consideration a lot. You need to think about the team as well. And to be honest, it was never something that I was never a very selfish person. I don't think as a player as well, and I've always kind of thought about other people and that as well. So it was quite easy for me to adapt. And I feel like I've taken my stride pretty well, to be honest, and I've dealt with things.
How much has Stephen Naismith helped you? Because he himself, obviously, as a player at big clubs as well, not always going to plan. Has he helped you?
No, definitely. We've kind of developed a good relationship. Obviously, I was working with the B team before that, and he obviously got the opportunity to take the team interim, and then he got the job, and we've developed a good relationship in that time. I like to think he trusts me as a captain and kind of to take care of things downstairs, and he can deal with everything upstairs. So, no, it's good. We've got a good relationship, and things are going well at the minute.
I don't think there's any other player in Scotland had their name in the back pages of being linked with moves away. How do you cope with that? And how do you go home at night and the missus or kids are saying to you, where are you going? What's going on here?
My missus deals with it fine, to be honest. She knows that I'll tell her if anything's going to happen, so we've got that sorted in the house. But it's more the noise foot side, to be honest. It's other people that you kind of need to deal with, and they see obviously the stuff on social media and newspapers and stuff. But for me, I know my contacts, I know the club, I work here every day, I know the situation that I'm in. And if anything was to come about, I'd be involved in it at some point down the road. But for me, until that point, it's very easy. I just remain focused on my football, and I've did it numerous times in my career, to be honest.
That's key though, because if you were to let your head go elsewhere, that would affect what's happening on the pitch.
No, it could, and obviously it does happen to some players. But listen, for me, it's been pretty easy. I'm grateful for what I have got, the opportunity to play at Hearts, and obviously I've got time left on my contract as well, which I'm obviously grateful for, and I'd never be disrespectful in that part. So I'm happy, I'm enjoying my football, and I'm scoring goals, so I've no reason not to be happy, really.
Can you fulfil all your football ambitions here though?
It depends what you want to talk about. I'm not going to win the Champions League here, so it's one of those ones. You need to be realistic in what the club can achieve and what you can achieve as a player. Of course, if the opportunity to maybe win things that you wouldn't win and play in places that you wouldn't play at Hearts come about, then it would obviously be tempting. It's a football career, and I'm the same as every other player in that aspect. But as I said, I'd never be disrespectful to the situation I'm in. I'm under contract at Hearts. I love it here. I'm loved by the fans, and that's obviously a huge help in things that I do week to week. That could convince you, is it not? Because this seems a perfect fit for you at the moment, Lawrence. No, it has. It's been brilliant if I've came here. Obviously, to get the opportunity to come here, it's about taking it, and I feel like I've done that. As I said to you, the potential moves and stuff, for me a big move is something that the club can't bring you, and it's an opportunity that Hearts can't bring you, whether that be playing in a different country, things like that. There's a lot to consider, but I'm obviously at a good age in my career as well, so it's obviously something I need to think about further down the line. But this moment in time, I'm happy and I'm enjoying it. In terms of the summer, the Euros, Hearts can help you get there, can't they? Yep, definitely. I'm getting the platform here to go and perform week to week, and it's about me taking that. Hopefully I can keep my form up. It's been good at the minute, scoring a lot of goals, enjoying myself, and the team's doing well, so hopefully that keeps going, and we'll see where the summer takes us. You don't have a Scottish Cup medal yet. Could you get one this year? I don't. That'd be great, of course. It's something we'd love to achieve. We're in a good position, we're on quarter-final stage now. Tough game at Morton, it's going to be a tough one for us, but hopefully we can deal with that professionally. We can be the better team on the night and get through and get to Hampden again, and you never know where that takes you. Finally, sum up the sort of striker you are, what you're like as a player. Obviously a goal scorer. I think that's kind of been key. But you don't just score tap-ins. No. You score everything. No, I've got a good range of finishes. I've always been quite a natural finisher since I was a kid, so I think that's always stuck with me. There's probably other aspects of my game I've kind of had to try and improve on over the years, and to be honest, I feel like I've done that. I feel like my game's obviously came on, the more experience, the older I've got. I've learned to play to my strengths as well, and not do things that make the game difficult for myself. So, no, I see myself as a bit of an all-rounder now, and obviously my form in my career's kind of shown that. Is there more to come? Hopefully. I'll keep working hard, keep driving. The technical, physical, mental side of the game. I'll just keep trying to work on them all and see how far I can go in my career, and hopefully there is more to come.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.